Welcome everyone to this Friday's live stream here at Townsend's. I am John Townsend, your host, and we'll be talking about all things 18th century. We'll be having a lot of fun. We have a lot of, I've got some kind of topics off to the side here. I'm not sure exactly what I want to say about them, but fun topics. We're gathering questions in the chat, so if you've got a question you want to pop in, something about a recent video or, hey, anything 18th century, Kyle will be taking those. In fact, let's talk about what's happening behind the camera. So here I am in front of the camera. Behind the camera on the console is Aaron, and he's typing away and making sure the internet does its thing.
It's looking
and
good.
it's good
so far.
It's working.
Yeah.
You never know. And then Kyle back there in the question seat, he's in the chat and there to find great questions.
That's right. We're missing somebody today.
Yeah, we're missing somebody. Normally I would have the guy back here who prepares the drinks and is got comments on the side there, but Ryan is gone, so I'm kind of missing. Is he like the little devil on my shoulder or the little?
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Anyway, it's Ben again.
Well, where is Ryan?
Okay. Well, we'll jump right to that topic. This weekend, we'll be down at Mississinewa 1812. That's in Marion, Indiana. It's about an hour from here. A super event. If you're interested in, well, anything historical, but if you're interested in the War of 1812 or just crafts of the time period, whatever, a lot of things are going on down at Mississinewa 1812. A beautiful site right there in the woods, and lots of great military units, lots of vendors selling things, wonderful food vendors.
Lots of cannons going off.
Yeah, and lots of cannons going off.
Non-stop.
They even have some river pirates and some great stuff like that. And Native American demonstrations, a lot of things going on at 1812. I think Maggie, the indentured servant, will be down there. So it's going to be a good event. And we've got some special things we're going to be trying out down there as well. So Ryan is down there. Kind of forgot the reason why we were going there. Ryan is down there right now. He spent the day down there. School day. Lots of school kids come through. He was running the shop there with his wife. So I was back here working, and we get to do the live stream because Ryan is working hard down at 1812. Whew. Let's see.
Oh, we forgot to move the sign back.
The sign. The sign's back. Well, you guys are going to have to put up with it because I can't move the sign in a hurry. Yeah, we were taking a picture for the... Do I dare mention it?
Hey.
Our yearly calendar that we put out has just went off to the printer. We were doing the front cover picture of it here down in the tavern, and we had to move the sign for the image, and now we forgot to move it back. Sorry,
but you're going to get a great calendar cover when the time comes.
It'll be a great calendar cover.
Yep.
And we had a new person working in the Nutmeg Tavern, for the picture, not Ryan. No way. He was on the cover of the catalog. We can't.
He can't have that many.
No, that's being too nice to him. So, how about Kyle? Do you have anything popping up in the question?
Yes,
section?
I do. All right. So first question is, hold on. There we go. Were sheep brought over to the Americas for wool production before the 18th century, or did the colonists still get their yarns from England?
Probably a majority, at least early on, were imported. When I was at Plymouth Plantation, I think it was Bradford, brought over sheep very early in the 1630s, possibly even a little bit earlier. So sheep were brought over from Europe very early. Whether they took a hold and how rapidly they took a hold, I don't know for sure. But I'm guessing at least until the beginning of the 18th century, the majority of that stuff was imported.
You have any knowledge on slang of the 17th century or popular phrases?
We have that whole series of slang and phrases that we put up on Facebook a couple of years ago. We kind of have one little slide that talks about slang. There's a couple of great books. I think the Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue, and there's some other printed works from the 18th century that talk about slang terms, usually just from England, not necessarily North America. And you'll see some references to specifically North American ones occasionally as you're reading through journals or whatnot. So there is some good documentation out there and fun pieces to find, some very funny and interesting slang terms.
What was ladies' maternity clothing like?
Many times, especially for, I don't know what's happening with necessarily with sort of high-end ladies' clothing, but middling, lower class ladies' clothing was very adaptable to that sort of thing. The petticoats were just, very, very voluminous, and so you generally did not have a big problem dealing with that within your standard wardrobe. So there you go.
What style of clothing do you find more comfortable overall?
Many times period clothing can be fairly comfortable. Different pieces can be uncomfortable until you figure out how to adjust it to really work for you, and that's probably what they did in the 18th century. Things like knee breeches it's really hard to keep those stockings up, but you got to use, garters, and they cut off the circulation to your lower leg, so some of those things can be difficult. But standard trousers, work shirts, they work fine. It was kind of funny. Ryan went to a wedding earlier this week, and they didn't send him he got like a rental tux or whatever. They didn't send him the right shirt, and or they didn't send him a shirt at all when they were supposed to. So he got a brand new linen work shirt, and it looked great in the setup. So it worked out fine for him. So period clothing can be good. It can be very comfortable if you get it set up right, or you find the right pieces that work for you.
Were any of your ancestors here during colonial times, and do you have any family history from them?
There is a wonderful viewer on the channel. I think it's Lily. I'm not sure. The name isn't right there on the tip of my tongue. She's actually gone through and dug up a bunch of great stuff on my lineage going back into colonial history. So, yeah, there's a bunch of very, very interesting relatives that there's great information for. There was one person who was, I think, an indentured servant, somebody who got in trouble for, I think he was a transported prisoner because he stole chickens and geese, and he got in trouble for that, and they transported him to North America. There was a very wealthy, well-to-do doctor in the 17th century Massachusetts, and there was even one of my relatives in the direct line who was, she was hanged for being a witch in my line. So there you go. There's a lot of super interesting relatives as you go back. So
that's crazy.
It is very, very interesting.
Are you interested in attending an event on the Revolutionary War in the South? We are we have living history events in addition to reenactments.
When we get a chance, as we're kind of mixing up what we normally do. For years and years, we had a very, very the same schedule. We would do the same thing over and over again, and we're sort of basically as we plan for the next couple of years, we're just throwing all that stuff out and just randomly going interesting places. So, yes, we are interested in being down in that area as well as other areas as we can fit it into our schedule. We have been down visiting down in Tennessee and Virginia earlier this year, so we'll be around.
How did people get mail?
I was reading about in a book about taverns and inns in the 18th century just last night, and there was a mention about mail, and mail was very kind of random in the 18th century until it became much more regimented. And you would write a letter and you would send it off with someone, and if they got close to the town where it was supposed to go, they'd just sort of drop the letters in the taverns, and then people that were going on to that location would take that mail on and leave it possibly at the tavern, and maybe the person who was supposed to receive it would go into the tavern and, oh, there's a letter for me. Or someone would actually hand deliver it to them who knew that person. So there was some kind of very, what do you call that? Very, just sort of impromptu mail service that was happening in the colonies in that early 18th century time period. Now, of course, we know Benjamin Franklin was working on that whole postal system and making it much more regimented and corporate, I guess is another word for it, to make it very systematic. So it was very rudimentary in the beginning, and there was even a reference about how you would probably expect that whoever was carrying your mail, if they were particularly inquisitive, they would open it up and just read it, and so you were probably very careful about the kinds of things you put in your letters.
I'm going to do some donations real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, everyone. $20 from Aaron C.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. I believe this is New Zealand dollars.
Okay.
20 New Zealand dollars from Stupid Robot Fighting League.
Stupid Robot Fighting League. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Townsend's rules so much. Thanks a lot. We appreciate that. And then Lord Chancho? $1.99. Here you go. Buy some more nutmeg.
Yeah.
Thank
got it
you.
right here. See, look, it's getting small, so I need to get more.
Yeah, you've got a lot of use out of that.
I got it wearing that way down.
Yep. One thing I saw, and I don't know if Kyle was going to get to this, but I saw some people saying they want us to elaborate a little bit more on Wednesday's video.
Wednesday's video.
Yeah.
Well,
is that something we want to get into right now?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Let me get these two real quick donations,
and
then we can get into that, I guess. $2 from Courtney.
Thank you, Courtney.
You have great energy and content. Thank you. Love it. Thanks for watching. And then $2 from Kayla May. Keep up the great work. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Kayla May.
It's pronounced Chancho. Sorry about that.
There
Appreciate
you go.
the donation.
You'll get it right.
Yeah, one of these days. Yeah, so anyway, Wednesday's video.
Before we get to that Wednesday video, just hold on to that thought for a second. While we were dealing with donations that made me, a Patreon came up in my mind. The folks who support us on Patreon, they've been doing a tremendous job. There's a bunch of new Patreon folks. We're up to something like 472 people that support us on Patreon. So thank you, everyone on Patreon. Some of the new Patreon people are Aloh, A-L-O-H. I'm not sure exactly how he pronounces that. Sir Slips. Someone named Q. Ryan Hill. Thank you, Ryan Hill. Horatius Boot Dinker, something like that. Brian Garland, Roslyn, Tarma, Hartley, and Mike Clifton, all brand new Patreon supporters. You guys, you make it happen. And if you're not familiar with Patreon, Patreon is a way that folks can support creators just a little bit or however much they feel like each month. So you sign up and it just takes a certain amount out each month. Some people give $1 or $2 or maybe $5. So that's such a great help to us, helps us plan because we know a particular amount of money is coming in. So that helps us buy equipment or go particular places that we couldn't go normally. Thank you, everyone on Patreon. So Wednesday's video. Wednesday's video is kind of an outworking about, lately we've been kind of regrouping on the channel. It's changed a lot recently about how we've been thinking about it, how we've been using it, and I kind of wanted to refocus and reorient and give some of that information about what it is that we do here and why we do it and where we're trying to go with the channel. And it's, as time flows, we get a chance to get a kind of a handle on, wait a minute, that this is what the channel is. And that has changed over the years. In the beginning, we did not use YouTube anything like this. And in fact, YouTube wasn't like what it is now. So as the audience changes, as YouTube changes, and as we change, we have to kind of keep refocusing and understanding what future videos are like. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what kind of videos that you guys as an audience need. And in the other sense, for me to deliver a really good video, I have to be there. You know, if I don't care about what the thing is that I'm doing the video about, it won't matter, and it won't be a good video. And so I had to think really hard in the last month or so. It's like, why is it that we do what we do, and why do we do it the way we do it, etc. So that Wednesday's video was kind of an outworking about that. And I was thinking about why reenactors in general want to connect with history the way they do that. We could easily say, oh, I study history, I read books, and that's it. But that's not what we do. That's not what I do, and that's not how I connect with history all the way. That's one of the ways that I understand it. But the other way is actually trying to experience it. And we can experience that in lots of different ways. But I want to be able to make videos so that you can feel that experience. I don't know. I don't know how it's done. I don't know how we're going to do it. But that's what we're going to be trying to do. And in fact, tonight, there's a special part of the 1812 event that is not done by the public, and it is not done by the vast majority of the participants, but a small portion of the participants do a very intimate, sort of immersive event at night, and it's sort of well, I'm going to find out because I'm going to go there tonight, and we're going to try to come up with a video out of that. Sometimes, if you've never done a particular thing before, you just have to fly by the seat of your pants and see what happens. So we'll be trying to do a bit more of an immersive video tonight. Whether we will be successful or not, I do not know, but that's kind of what's happening. If you've got more questions, or you want to poke me and say, John, we still don't understand, go ahead and tell them in the chat, because I'm not sure I fully get it.
I don't even know if we quite fully, understand the way of wording that. But I think it's something like, for me, we want the viewers to be able to have that kind of, I guess, a euphoric experience. I don't know if that's the right word. And do so by, if all they can do is watch a video to get that, then we can try to offer that, So it's not like you only can get this at an event or whatever. We want to kind of bring that to you.
Right. Or at least bring you the report on that experience. Obviously,
yes.
we can't have you feel like you're there totally, but we'll see what we can do. So that's kind of what's going on with that. Whew. And it's definitely takes me out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I mean, what doesn't? My comfort zone is about it's the size of a walnut, and everything else is uncomfortable.
It also makes, of a nutmeg.
Yeah, exactly. It's the size of a nutmeg.
It also makes even going into like a cooking video a little more like,
okay,
let's try to get to the why are we doing this?
And still make it condensed and
entertaining.
Right, and entertaining, and not it's like, oh wow, what is he doing? Why is he still doing that? So
yep. I might have a couple of donations to grab. There's just a couple we'll get when more come in.
You build those up, Aaron.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have some questions.
Okay, Kyle.
Says, you sound a little hoarse. What were popular 18th century remedies for sore throats and laryngitis?
I think the reason why that's happening is because I've been talking so much in the last 2 weeks that I'm starting to go away. There are a bunch of great remedies that are kind of hiding in the back of the cookbooks and in the medical books of the 18th century, some of which we have. available to us. I don't have any of those. I don't have any of those particular sore throat. Maybe I should have some sore throat remedies off the top of my head. I'm sure some of them would be really good, and other ones would probably poison you and shorten your life by several years. So we won't do those.
Did is it Sarah at Conner Prairie?
Yeah.
Did she have anything in that? Remember that video?
Undoubtedly.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, there's a herbal remedy video we did with Sarah Withrow down at Conner Prairie, and she did a great job. There was like 2 different ones explaining some of those sort of things, both the individual plants that they were using and the ways that they would deliver that medicine.
I'll try to throw that in the comment section.
Good.
That was a super fun video.
Yeah, and I think she was supposed to visit down at the feast last weekend. I didn't see her. I met her son down there, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll try to throw that one in the chat.
All right, this question says, what are some good resources for finding living history events in my area? I noticed many of the historical groups in my area don't advertise these things very well.
There's Smoke and Fire News that's printed. They're out of Waterville, Ohio. Anyway, if you search for Smoke and Fire News, the newspaper, they list living history events in a printed form. Online, your best case is just to go searching. Generally, Facebook is probably the best of those sources. It's hard to collect all that information up and keep it up to date, and so we experimented with that a little bit, but it was a lot of work and it wasn't getting utilized very much. So we've reoriented some of our energy in other places. So, but those are the 2 best solutions that I've got.
Why did people view tomatoes as poisonous in the 1700s?
There's a lot of people will comment on the idea that the tomatoes were acidic in nature, and people might eat them or cook them on pewterware that had lead, and that would make them poisonous. That may be true, but I don't know that would have been poisonous as immediately enough for them to recognize it in the 18th century. I would like to see the 18th century references to that. That would be interesting, and I can totally see it being possible. The one of the things is that tomatoes are from the nightshade family, and you can see how if they extrapolated from that, tomatoes are related to other poisons, they would say tomatoes are poisonous. And also they were known to be used by other cultures. So the English and the North Americans, let's say the English heritage North Americans, they didn't think tomatoes were good, or they didn't think they were food-like, and they possibly thought they might be food-like, but they wouldn't be good for you in a lot of different senses. Their food and medicine ideas were kind of intermixed, and so it's like, well, that's too hot of a food, or it's too wet of a food, or whatever. I don't know. I don't understand that part, but they certainly were being used in Spanish cooking, French cooking, Italian cooking. In the time period, they didn't get popular with the English or the North Americans until later on. I don't know if they really thought they were poisonous or not. They even kind of show up in medicine in the 18th century, but so it's not an easy topic to give a perfect answer to.
We've done a video on it, and I didn't even remember us getting to the bottom of it.
Yeah, exactly.
In that video.
Exactly.
All right, donation time.
Okay.
So where did we stop? Kayla May, I believe. And someone said I didn't mention Aaron C. $20. I'm pretty sure I did, but if I didn't, Aaron C. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
F2, $2.
Thank you.
Base Nutmeg Man. Yeah. Timothy Keys.
Timothy.
Yeah. €5.
Thank you.
Reenacting your favorite journal entry sounds like a good idea. The script is already written. Yep.
Yeah. I'm
Great
definitely
idea.
going to work on some Nicholas Cresswell videos. I got those in the hopper. Those are planned.
Yeah. There's tons of good stuff in that journal. Pat Throwback Bear Putnam, $5.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the videos. You guys do help me out of this cab when I can't. Too many miles, so little time. Your videos get listened to often. Great.
Thank you.
Great. $10, Leslie Andrew Writings.
Thank you, Leslie.
John and Company. Thank you for what you do in these divisive times. You guys bring together patriots, history buffs, and all sorts of folks together to share a genuine passion with earnest warmth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Oh, and then $10 for Max Are Cool.
There's
Yes.
Max.
Really love your videos. We'll be excited to see what's next. Thank you
Yeah.
for
Me too.
going along on the ride with us. Yeah, us too. They're going to come back with footage from this, I don't know, this thing tonight. And
Exactly.
go, here, Aaron.
Yeah, here you go, Aaron.
Yeah.
Make a cool video out of that.
Oh, it'll be great. €2 from Timothy Keys again. Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry for
Timothy.
the accidental espionage. All right. More questions or anything we want to talk about?
Well, I can tease out. I wish I don't have any pictures or any video because it's been prep work, but we are working. We're moving forward with the Dugout Canoe project.
Yes.
So we're excited about where that's going to go, and that's going to be work that's going on next week, the week after that. Yeah, that'll be a fun one. And dugout canoes are a great topic for that. A mix of the cultures there, Native Americans as well as the Europeans that come in and use those canoes, and they use them right through the 18th century. They're very popular up into the 19th century, and I think there's some misinformation about them. There's a lot there to learn on that topic. So that's another one of those. I think we're gonna really have some kind of interconnected videos. That'll be fun. That'll be a fun series.
Yeah. We kind of started working on a log, and
Yeah,
it just
there's a lot of work. That's big. They're big, and it's a lot of hard work.
they
so.
going down into a pit, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
got to get that out. But it does make you appreciate. I mean,
Yeah.
the people back then, they were,
Yeah, to get to work on those things, to get them where they needed to go, picking out the tree. Of course, they probably had a lot more trees to pick out, and the time it takes to hollow that out, the different techniques that it would take, and just moving the log. I mean, I imagine that basically you're just like, well, I want to pick the tree that's on the river, so whoop, it just falls basically in the water. You turn it into your canoe, and off you go. Nicholas Cresswell's journal, he talks about making two different 30-foot long walnut dugout canoes, and a walnut canoe would be just tremendous.
Yeah.
But today, probably a $20,000 log to turn it into a canoe. So
yeah, we're excited to get working on that one. We're working with a local fellow
yeah,
on
we've
this
got
one, an expert.
it's gonna be good.
Yep, excited about it.
All right, more questions. Here we go.
Yeah.
What 18th century historical document stands out the most to you?
Well, there are a lot of different kinds of documents. If I was gonna pick something that sort of I don't know. I'll say in cookbook land, the one that pops out and says this one really matters is the Amelia Simmons American Cookery Cookbook that she does in 1796. That really kind of tells you what's happening with American food that you didn't know all the way before that. We only have sort of anecdotal evidence and connection points to all the kinds of foods, how they were doing the foods earlier than that. And then, you get this no-nonsense, down-to-earth, small, simple cooking cookbook that pops up right at the end of the 18th century and says, this is what's happening with American cookery. And all of a sudden you say, oh, well, that it completely makes sense. So that would be the one that I end up working in a lot in the kinds of things that we do. But there's how do you pick out one document and say, this one means something? Some of them mean something in, a political sense. Some of them mean something in explaining different, facets of colonial life. So there's no one document, nothing's going to cover all those areas.
Somebody all caps just said the Constitution.
Well, there is the Constitution or the
That one's pretty
Declaration of
cool.
That's a
Independence.
given.
But again,
Yeah,
those don't tell you anything about. They don't necessarily tell you anything about what regular people's lives were like.
They don't really. It doesn't really give you a glimpse into
Yeah.
the
It-
look and the feel.
Certainly, it tells you a lot about what they were thinking about government.
Mm-hmm.
Totally, very, very true, and very interesting. So.
Right. Halloween video. Yeah, I think did that book come in?
It did, but
You weren't impressed.
yeah.
We're trying to do something for Halloween, but we're kind of struggling finding like the old.
We had a connection. Somebody connected with Ryan about some an anthropology guy. So there possibly is something there.
Okay, we definitely would like to,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm gonna.
And if you just want the trick or treat aspect, you can just go right to Guy Fawkes and have people running around and saying, give us a treat or we'll, catch your
There-
barn on fire or whatever. They did that.
There is that. There is always that.
Give us a treat or we'll blow up Parliament.
Exactly. something like that. Maybe that's what they should have done for Guy Fawkes. It's like, no, it's all right. Here, have some candy, and you would have calmed down after that.
I want to do something real quick, and this is gonna be a little. This is gonna be a little petty. This is people. So many people keep saying this is a green screen. I want you to walk back there and grab something off the show. We're gonna put an end to this.
Not agree.
Oh, and you're in jeans too.
Oh, don't look.
Like-
See, there. I'll change hats for you. No, see, I was wearing jeans. You ruined everything. There you go.
There we go.
There we go.
We put so much work into this. You guys don't even know.
We've never done a green screen. And
Never.
that topic pops up in the sauerkraut video, and some of those videos that we did outside. We did them under a tarp,
Yeah.
and so as we're shooting, the light on me is different than it is on the background, and so it looks very green screeny. And in fact, it was shot outdoors, and it's very disheartening to go out in the environment and you work really hard on making a video, and then it looks like it's a green screen. If only I could do green screen that well, then we could do everything up here,
The air
on
conditioning.
the screen, and it would be great.
Yep. Let me do a little bit of some donations because they're coming in. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate this. $10 from Blake.
Thank you, Blake.
What is your favorite historical piece in your personal collection, John?
Ooh, personal collection. There is a piece. Recently, I acquired a very, very interesting pewter spoon, and it's hallmarked that it's made by someone named Townsend in the 18th century. So that's one of the very interesting pieces that I picked up recently. And I also picked up a very, very interesting Delftware domino, which I've never seen. It's the only Delft domino that I've seen show up. I haven't seen any other representations of that. So there's some fun stuff out there.
Right. And then 50, I think it's Swedish. Let me make sure that I'm getting this right.
I think we should
Swedish krona. Yes.
There we go.
Oh, from Muggles are cool too. Right on.
Yeah, yes.
Was Halloween considered pagan in 18th century America?
I'd say most likely. It's there was somebody sent me a message just the other day, and they were mentioning the connection between All Saints Day and All Hallows Eve. I think it all depends on, like so many of these holidays, they each have their sort of cultural references, and some of the cultures pick these things up, and other ones they aren't interested in them. Like Christmas is one of those perfect examples. In different parts, different towns, they would have a strong culture that was, say, there were Quakers, and then there might be other people, and some of the residents were very interested in Christmas, and other ones it wasn't even on their radar. They worked that day. There was nothing There was no holiday to it. So undoubtedly, you get a little bit of that going on with Halloween, but I see very, very few references to Halloween in the different things that I've read about colonial life and life in the 18th century in North America. So we're still working on that one.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to do something 18th century Halloweeny, but I don't know.
It seems, I mean, if it's connected with Pope's Night, which is in early November, then that's just mostly just violence. That's just just beating people up and whatever.
It's rude and clamorous.
Right. It was
affair.
just rude and clamorous and nothing else really. No costumes. Well,
maybe a little bit.
Actually, okay.
$4.99 from Lord Chancho. Did I get that right? Is it Lord Chancho? I feel like he's trolling.
Poor Aaron.
Me. I know.
He should get hazard pay for
the
sitting
live
in
stream.
that chair.
Yep. Are we ever going to see Ben Franklin, aka Michael Dragoo, in a future episode again? Definitely.
Yes.
And I've never thought of that.
In fact, Benjamin Franklin, he reincarnated into Michael Dragoo. We just talked to him yesterday about planning some more episodes with him. So he is in on the schedule in the next couple of months. So he better hurry up because I need some help with some cooking episodes just right now.
For sure. $9.99 from Nick. Thanks for what you do. You have inspired me to attend my first overnight reenactment event at Dollinger Farm this weekend. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that.
Right.
Hope you have a good time.
Report back. We want to hear about it.
Yes. $4.99 from Ron Sarver.
Thank you, Ron.
10 Canadian dollars from Jim Jong Jung.
Okay.
I'll skip that first part. Also, I've really liked the fermented food videos you guys have done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, there's some very interesting things in trying to understand totally what's going on with the fermented foods. Some of those things they didn't know were fermenting. There's a lot to learn about what's going on with fermented foods. And of course, there's a bunch of different cultures that have different traditions in fermented foods, and they all sort of coalesce. So,
right, yeah. That's all I got for now.
More questions? Mr. Townsend.
yes.
Were there any dedicated cooks in the Continental Army during the American Revolution?
Generally, they would just sort of round up, hey, you're going to be a cook, you're going to be a cook, you're going to be a cook. And sometimes that would happen, and they got very poor results from that, as you could imagine, right? Other times, the food would be issued to the squad, and they would cook that up as, so every 6 men would get their 6 men's worth of food, and between them, they would burn it or boil it or whatever. The different officers at times would write during the Revolution about what sorry state the food preparation was. They were wasteful of their food. They didn't know how to cook it, and I can completely imagine that happening in the time period, or even today. How if you took, you threw, 20 or half a dozen 18 to 30-year-olds, here's a bunch of food, go. That it might not be the most edible thing in the universe. They also would go through large groups of people and pick out men with particular talents. So bakers were one of those, and assign them to baking for large groups of men. So those are the 3 kinds of things that I've seen as I've been reading. There may be other situations that are a little different than that, but those are the 3 things that pop into my mind.
Hey, $20 from William.
Thank you, William.
Thank you. Hey, let's talk about Instagram real quick. What do you think?
So every week, at least when it's possible, we go digging through the Instagram feed looking for pictures with the hashtag Townsends. And usually we're looking for interesting pictures that have to do with 18th century cookery, 18th century historic sites, or anything historical, really, or say merch. So maybe people have a mug or something like that, and they put a picture on Instagram. We pick out a winner each week, and we send them a gift certificate or some wild and crazy thing we find laying around in the back room. That would be really cool. And we've got a winner this week, and
Yes.
Who is it, Aaron?
Rev.Rooster.
There you go, Rev.Rooster, and
He's kicking back by a fire with his Nutmeg Tavern mug, and I thought now that it's
yeah,
starting to get a
camping
little chilly out.
and he's got enough firewood. He's going to stay warm.
Yes.
I can see that.
Oh yeah, and I thought it was a pretty cool picture. So Ryan
Right.
will be in touch with you. And we'll
Yeah,
send
so
you a
Ryan will
gift.
DM Rev.Rooster or whatever that was.
Yeah,
and
Rev.Rooster.
if you want to participate, and we love looking at all those pictures, and then all you need to do is put the hashtag Townsend's on there. And if you want to help us find it, if you put the @Townsend's_official, the Townsend's Instagram account there, that also helps us find it a little bit faster. So thank you everyone who participates that way. And if you haven't been contacted yet, keep trying. Thank you so much.
Yep, appreciate it. Let's do some more questions.
All right, more questions. Actually, this is not a question, but it's a comment that just kind of tickled me. It said, Sophie's sightings belay the green screen myth.
Yes, yes. You never know when Sophie's going to pop up in the background of a video. She was in there was like 2 videos ago. People were, is that a deer? Is it a monster? It's just Sophie, the dog. And she was in Wednesday's video too. And it's a sad but good ending story. We almost lost Sophie. She got run over and it broke one of her vertebrae in her back. And she was not in videos for 2 months recuperating. We had to keep her so she couldn't move at all. But now she's jumping around even though she's not supposed to. But she is back in the videos after a long recuperation. So it was touch and go there. It's pretty scary.
I would have to say when I was a channel watcher before I worked here, my favorite one was John was being super serious with the camera, and then Sophie just right across the back. I'm like, that's funny. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
she's a wonderful, happy, jumpy dog. So
Yeah, really good dog.
All right. Why was the War of 1812 largely forgotten on its bicentennial?
because we lost it.
There you go.
You only remember the wins, huh?
Exactly. It's just like we didn't do so well with that one, so let's not really talk about it.
I don't remember that one.
Then why did they say remember the Alamo, John?
Oh.
To tell you.
Time
Eventually,
to
we
leave.
won that one. I think that's the reason.
Yeah, that's true. All right. How did acidic foods like sauerkraut fight scurvy?
Well, sauerkraut's fighting scurvy not because it's acidic, but because it has vitamin C in it. And scurvy is the lack of vitamin C. So, foods that have vitamin C are the things that are the cure for scurvy. But it can be hard to, keep that vitamin C around. It, doesn't stay with foods. And, unlike dogs and cats make their own vitamin C, which is just really weird. But so we have to find ways to get that. And lemons and limes, those were a great way to do that. And they didn't really, some people got that idea in the 18th century, but sauerkraut was one of the simplest, least expensive, and great ways because it stores and basically gets better over time.
Are there any recipes or cookbooks that were intended for non-livestock, such as deer, goose, duck, or squirrel?
Some of those wild game items show up in the English cookery cookbooks. Venison and deer show up in those cookbooks. I think that the other game, until the 19th century, they don't seem to show up that much in cookery cookbooks because they figure you're going to adapt whatever it is to that meat. I guess another one that will show up are fowl, different sorts of birds and birds that we would never eat today show up in the 18th century cookbook. They ate every bird. If it's got wings on it, it's legal. Let's kill it. Let's eat it. And they did that in the 18th century. Ortolans and cranes and all kinds of strange things. Swans. We're going to have this big swan dish. That's one of the other. But I think most of the time you would just adapt a standard kind of dish to the game that is closestly related to it. Rabbit, I guess, conies show up. But I don't think I've ever seen any squirrel necessary recipe. So.
This is also from William Shelbrick. He donated the 20
Yeah.
earlier. $5. Thank you.
Thank you, William.
Will you do some videos on hunting and cooking wild game? Stay tuned.
Sounds like
that.
Paul McKenzie's chiming in here.
Yeah.
There's another very immersive project that's we're going to be working on for the channel that's happening at the end of this month. And there probably will be some opportunities again for that. And if you want to see a little bit of that, we did the rabbit episode with Dan Wowak earlier this year. That's another that even that story was sort of funny, but I'm not going to tell the rabbit story. Sorry.
The what story?
It was a good hunt, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it was a good hunt.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh,
Blood,
man.
sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
He was a quick one. How did people stay cool during the summers? They didn't.
Yeah, I think they didn't, and they put up with that a little bit more, I think, than we do. I think we complain a lot more because they didn't have the choice. If you don't have air conditioning, then it's hot. It's really, really hot, and you didn't complain about it because there was no other choice. The fashions of the 18th century. This, even what I'm wearing right here, is not typical wear. You would, any kind of gentleman, if he's, or even just regular guy, who's out in public, you're going to wear more than this. This is still sort of semi-undress. You're going to be wearing a wool coat, summer or not. And you might have a linen coat or a silk coat. That's just as hot, really. In the summertime, you're expected to wear that if you're out in public. And even if you're not in public, a gentleman about the house, he's going to have on a banyan, which is like a robe, a heavy robe going around the house. So I don't know how they did it. I do not know how they did it, except when I wear wool clothes I'm at an event, it's 100 degrees out. I've got a wool coat on. You get used to it. I don't know what to say other than
that. Speaking of around the house, what kind of house do you live in, and is it a modern house?
I live in a straw bale house that I built about 22 years ago or so. So it's got some look and feel of an 18th century house in some ways. Doesn't have flat walls. It's I don't, if there's an easy way to do something, then I don't do that. I do something very, very difficult instead. And so, when it was time to build a house, we found something very difficult to do, and I love the house and the look and the feel of it. It definitely doesn't have a totally modern house feel, but it does have running water and heating and all that kind of good stuff because I want to be warm in the wintertime, at least sometimes. Although it would be very nice to have a completely period style house so that when you wanted to have that experience, you just go over there and do that. And we'll be working on some of that kinds of things in the coming years or so.
Thought you were gonna say, and when you want to make videos, you can just do it in your house.
That's right.
Don't even have to leave.
Do you ever go to conferences on recreating the past here in the U.S.?
Occasionally, we do things that are related to that. Alfam conference, which has to do with museums, living history sites. The Genesee Country Village has a domestic symposium that covers topics, domestic life in the early 19th century. So yeah, we do a little bit of that.
Can you tell us anything interesting about embroidery or needlepoint?
Not really, except that it was expected that young women really didn't matter what class they were. They were expected to learn some sorts of useful things. And as you go up in class, sometimes they would be a little more not necessarily as totally useful, but let's say more decorative. So, a young lady might learn art or music, but she would almost definitely learn different kinds of embroidery and needlework, and that especially is more popular as you go down into the working classes, because you would need to be able to sew clothing regardless of who you were. You were expected to be able to do at least some mending, and a lot of people would sew their own clothing, at least small portions of them, when they really needed to. Clothing was very expensive compared to, let's say, the amount of income they have. We spend very small portions of our income compared to what was happening with folks in the 18th century. So needlework and embroidery, and they did some amazing embroidery work in the 18th century. Very, very nice, beautiful things. Coats that are completely covered with it, and waistcoats, and so it's very, very popular, and a popular skill.
What is lining the fireplace in the tavern?
There's a blazing hot
Yeah.
fire over
Yep.
there we got going.
I think they're talking about the tiles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Lining the
well,
fireplace.
many fireplaces in the 18th century Delft tile, earthenware tiles that were made in, sometimes in England, but many times they were Dutch tiles, and they would be decorated like that. And so I wanted to have this really cool. So I went down in the basement and I made some tiles for the fireplace because I couldn't afford the real thing.
This is kind of a weird question, but it's something I've always wondered. I'm highly allergic to horses. How did people with similar problems get around back in those times?
I'm guessing that the amount of allergies and people with known allergies in the 18th century is a tiny percentage compared to what's happening today. Why? Obviously, we have a lot of modern ideas about why people are more allergic to things today than they used to be. But I'm guessing that wasn't as much of a problem in the 18th century. And even if it was, you didn't maybe really know what it was that was causing you the issue, and so you didn't deal with it. Undoubtedly, there were some few people that knew that was an issue, and I don't know what they did. I don't know, because horses would be very, very common. But I think even my wife has a sensitivity to horses, and if she doesn't touch them physically, it's generally not that much of a problem. So, you ride in a carriage behind a horse, maybe it wouldn't bother you. I don't know.
All right, a couple more questions here. Any plans for holiday specials? Maybe a series on how they decorated and cooked for the holidays in the 18th century?
Yeah, we really, we do so much special food and decoration, and we put things around, special things happening around the holidays. And I don't know, 18th century North America doesn't have as much of that going on. So it's a little bit harder to find that information, and it's, they're not talking about as much. So it's definitely trickier to know. You have to kind of pick out the hints sometime about what's going on with decorations and the special foods. And the regionality and the cultural connections, so make it so that it can be very different in areas that are very close to each other. So I'll see what I can find. It's a great, wonderful topic. It's just one that's very difficult to do.
All right, last question.
Yes.
Says, comparing foods to the foods of the 18th century to today's, which do you prefer more?
I enjoy some of the variety that, of course, we have. We have a very cosmopolitan diet compared to what was going on in the 18th century. While there were a lot of these different cultures that had a lot of different kinds of food, they didn't necessarily intermix. Today we have a lot of intermixing, and so we fix all these different sorts of dishes that they would have never done. Something we take for granted, pizza. There's nothing like that. Nothing at all like that in the 18th century. In fact, there was nothing like that in the 1940s. So that unless you were in that cultural subgroup and connected with that or close to that. So that is really nice. But I really enjoy a lot of the 18th century dishes, but they end up being very special to me, and I don't necessarily remake them very often because I'm eating a standard I don't cook them. My wife does the cooking, so I don't get a chance to make cool 18th century things all the time unless I'm doing episodes. Okay, fine, I admit it. There you go.
Let me do these last couple donations, and we can get out of here. Oh, and yes, somebody asked about English Heritage. Stay tuned.
Yeah, English Heritage. There's another collaboration coming up soon.
Stay tuned for that. Okay, $1 from Edward K.
Thank you, Edward.
Thank you so much. €5 from EU Phoenix.
EU Phoenix, thank you.
And then Julie Stevens, $50.
Oh, Julie, thank you.
No question, just showing support for a wonderful channel. Thank you so much. We appreciate your donations. Well, I say we hit it.
It's been a great Friday, and we got an exciting event happening this weekend. If you're anywhere in that sort of middle of Indiana and you want to go to a great event, you haven't been to Mississinawa 1812, check it out. Marion, Indiana. Great event. Lots of things going on. And I think the weather's going to be cool, but it's going to be great. Cool is better than too hot. I'm telling you, it is. Thank you so much for all your great support and watching those videos and great comments and the wonderful super chat and the folks who support us on Patreon. You guys do so much for us, and I want to thank you for all you do, and thanks for watching.